Marhaba, ahlan wa sahlan. We are going to finish up Unit 6. We've only got 2 more letters left. If you've got your page, we're on page 133. And we are doing the letter Ain. So it's a pair of words, pair of letters today. The first one is Ain. The way that we write it, sort of like a backwards 3. The top loop is a little bit smaller than the bottom loop. You're going to write it several times. Ain. And in your book, they write an apostrophe and then AYN. And this apostrophe is supposed to represent that distinctive sound that you have in Arabic that comes from your throat, which we don't have in English. Okay, so that's why it's written with apostrophe. Ah, ah, ah. So you're going to pretend you have an apple, you're taking a big bite out of it, and you're rolling your throat, your Adam's apple right here. You should feel a roll in your throat. Ah, ah. Ah, your throat should feel like a roll. Ah, 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 ah. So if this is your throat, the ayn is in the mid-range of your throat. Ah. It's not considered a heavy letter. It's simply considered a throat letter. Okay? It is in your throat. Now, your book goes on in listening exercise 10, if you flip the page, and it compares the letter Hamza to the letter Ain. The letter Hamza is just the sound. So if you have with a fatha, it's a. If you have a dhamma, it's u. If you have a kasra, it's i. The u, e sound. The letter Ain, you can write it with an apostrophe. A, ru, and I. So if we compare it here, a, u, e, the sound is in the chest. A, u, e. And then the sound in the throat, a, ru, I. I is the hardest because you're rolling your throat and you're pulling your jaw down. A, ru, I. When you're making the ru sound, you're rolling that sound in your throat and you're making a circle with your mouth so that it comes out as a u sound. Ru. A, ru, I, which is different than a, u, e, which is just the simple vowel sounds that we have in English, right? It's from your chest. So let's give you an example. If we look at the top of page 134, let's look at number 1. You're going to go ahead and try to pronounce the 2 words and then unpause when you're ready. Okay, the first one, waw fatha wa, alif hamza fatha a, wa'ada, wa'ada, wa'ada. Now in this one, this is an ayn. We're going to learn how to connect it shortly. Wa'ada, 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 a, 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 a. Okay, let's look at number 2. The first one, put it here. Ta, fatha, ta. Then you have a alif hamza with a fatha, ta, and we're stopping here on the tha. Okay? Ta-a-tha. Shadda means you stop on it and then pronounce it a second time here with the fatha. Ta-athara. Ta-athara. The a is very light. Ta-athara. As opposed to ta-a. And then stopping on the tha. Ta-athara. 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 Let's look at number 3. Go ahead and try to pronounce it and then come back. Actually, okay, so the first one, asir, it's very light. A, asir. And then in your throat, asir. A, asir. And here, asir. With the hamza, asir. With the ayn, asir. So notice the difference. The hamza is in your chest, and the ayn is in your throat. So if we look here, a versus a. U, ru. I, I. Okay? So what you can do is now drill 14, and that's good practice. You'll listen to a word and you'll distinguish, does it have a hamza or does it have an ayn? Okay, let's do some words. So we want to do initial, medial, and final. Initial position, ayn. So here's your ayn. It's going to look just like the top half. So we're going to draw the top half of the ayn and we're going to connect it. So if I had ayn with an alif, we would write it like this. A, ru, I. Okay. So when it's connected, it will look like that. So let's do a word with it like this, and let's do a word with it like this. Shari'. Shari'. Pause and then write. Shari'. Shari'. Ayn. So when you have a ayn, it's going to drop below the line. When it's in its full form and it's not connected, it'll drop below the line. Shari' means road or street. Shari'. So if I want to say my street, how would I say that? Shari'. Then I would write it here in initial position, because now we're connecting the ya. Shari', my street or my road. Shari'. Sa'a. Sa'a. Sa'a is a feminine word. It's a feminine noun. Sa'a. So we have ayn, initial position, and I told you it's feminine, so therefore it's going to end right here with a ta marbuta. Sa'a. Sa'a means watch. It can mean clock. It can mean hour. Just depends on context. Notice, it is a non-human word, therefore it will always be feminine. You can't make it masculine. It will always just be a feminine noun. Sa'a. Let's do another one. Sa'ab. Sa'ab. Sa. Sa'ab. Sa. Not sa, but sa. Sa'ab. Slide. Then we have ayn in medial position. So, should probably show you what it looks like medially, huh? Medially, it's going to look a little bit different. It looks like an upside down triangle. You connect the triangle upside down and connect on. And sometimes people like to color it in. Okay. So this is what it looks like medially. And the reason why is because it's kind of hard to write this shape. So don't write that. You're going to write it like this. So sa'ab. So we have ayn medial position. We're stopping on it, and we're also stopping on the dot. Sa'ab. And sa'ab means hard, difficult. So if I want to say, for instance, my homework, wajibi sa'ab. Homework is hard. And if you're referring to something that's difficult and it happens to be a feminine word, you can simply add a ta marbuta to it. Because any adjectives can be made masculine or feminine depending on what they're describing. Okay. In final position, it's going to take medial form and its full form. So we're going to connect using the triangle, and then we're going to do that loop, the big loop that goes underneath. That's final position. Okay. So let's do the word wasi'. 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 Waw alif, seen, and ending here. Wasi'. Wasi' means wide. It can also mean spacious. Wasi'. Wasi'. Okay, so if you look at page 136, drill 15 is a great one to practice. Okay, so what you want to do is you're looking at each one. There's A and there's B, and you're going to compare and contrast how you would pronounce the difference. So in A, all of them have a hamza, and in B, they all have ayn. So practice reading it first, and then click and listen to each one. So do one A and B, then listen to one A and B and see if you did it correctly. Do the same thing for the rest of them. I'm going to just go over one of them, 6A and 6B. So here's A and here's B. So go ahead, read it, and then unpause. Starting with the hamza, a. Zay has a ya after it, z, and then ending with another z. Aziz. This one starts with an ayn, so put an apostrophe. A, same thing. Aziz. Aziz with a hamza, aziz with an ayn. Okay. So you're going to practice reading through with those two pairs. So now let's go ahead, let's do the last letter. And it is, of course, the same exact shape that we have as the ayn, but it has a dot, and this is the letter ghain. Ghain, that's its name, and the sound it makes is the gh sound. And this is the sound of gargling. So if you were to drink some water, okay, and gargle, that's the sound of this. Okay, so it's a gargling G sound. It's not just a regular G sound, it's a gargling G sound. Okay, so G. Now, if you push too hard, because the letter Ghain is in your throat as well, G, if you push too hard, you're going to get Ch, which is also in your throat, but it's above the point of articulation in your throat. So if this is the back of your mouth and this is into your throat, the Ch is at the back of your mouth and the top of your throat, and the Ghain is right below that point of articulation. We call this the makhraj, the point of articulation. Okay, so Ch, that is a heavy letter where you're making the ah sound, Ch, and you're really pushing against your vocal cord. Ghain. Ghain is softer, but it's from an articulation point a little bit low, and you're using your vocal cords and vibrating your vocal cords. Okay, so in the letter Ch, you're forcing your vocal cords to press, versus Gh, you're simply vibrating the vocal cords. Okay, and if you look at listening exercise 13 is good practice for this, and so is drill 18 is good practice for this. Okay, so I'm going to show you in listening exercise 13. Let's look at number 1. Go ahead and read them and then come back. Okay. So in this one, this is the letter Ghain, because remember the Ayn and the Ghain look the same. It's just the dot, so it's medial. So if ya with the fatha ya, then you have the gargling G sound with a ya after it. Yaghi, ghi, ghi. It's just a light vibration, and a ba. Yaghib. This has a kha, yaghib. Notice the difference, it's a lot harsher. Yaghib, yaghib, ghi, khi. So the kha, when you're comparing these two letters, the kha is a much harsher sound, and the gha is a vibrating sound. Okay. So if we compare and contrast both of them, kha, khu, khi, gha, ru, ri, kha, ra, khu, ru, chi, ri. So that's the difference between those two. Okay. So let's look at some words then. You already know what it looks like. Go ahead, write initial, medial, final. It looks exactly the same as the ayn, the only difference is the dot. So let's do some words. Gharib. غريب. Try to write the shape and then go back and put the dots. غريب. غين را يا با. غريب. And غريب means strange or weird. So if I would say, my neighbor is strange. Got a weird neighbor. My neighbor is strange. جاري غريب. Pause the video, make that feminine. My neighbor is now female, so she's strange. In this case, now you'll have with the ta, جارتي. Now what does غريب have to take? Good, it has to take that ta مربوطة. غريبة. جارتي غريبة. So now we're adding this ta مربوطة because جارتي is feminine. Okay. Let's do another one. صغير. 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 صاد غين with the E sound. Ya and Ra. صغير. صغير can mean small. It can also mean young. Okay. So if I wanted to say, for instance, a small house. Small house. Go ahead, write that down. Which word comes first? Bait. And then the word صغير. Bait صغير, small house. What if I want to say a small picture? Pause and write small picture. So we did صورة in the last video. صورة is picture, and notice it's feminine. So what will we do to the word صغير? We're going to add something مربوطة to that. صورة صغيرة. صورة صغيرة. Okay. So now we have several adjectives that you can work with. Adjectives, those description words. We now have, we've done جديد, and we've got صغير, and we've got غريب. Notice they all rhyme with each other. Okay. I'm going to give you a couple more adjectives. بعيد. I want to write it, you write it down. بعيد. بعي. عي, the ع sound. با فتحة, عين يا دال. بعيد. بعيد means far. So we've got جديد, new. صغير is small or young. غريب is strange. بعيد is far. We've done another one. صحيح. What was that one? صحيح. صحيح, meaning correct. Okay. Meaning correct. We also have had صعب. We just did this one. صعب, meaning hard or difficult. So now that we have these adjectives, and of course you have your colors as well, you can now use them to describe things. Okay? Try to use different words. So my house is far. My homework is correct. Okay? My neighbor's wife is strange. Try to mix and match different words and create those as sentences and phrases. And all of these adjectives, not your colors, we haven't done the feminine for colors, but all of these adjectives can be made feminine by simply adding a ta marbuta to the end. Okay, and of course if it's after like jadid and saghir, they both end in nan. Same with dal. For ba'id, they don't connect, so it'll simply be written like this. So if I said she's far, for instance, ba'ida. Okay. Now when it comes to colors, it works a little bit differently. And if I have a color, like for instance, aswad, okay, which is black, the feminine for that is soda. And when you take a color and you make it feminine, you end up dropping that alif hamza and you end up adding an alif and a hamza at the end of the word. And that's the feminine marker for colors. Okay? So if I had, for instance, abyad, we're going to drop that alif hamza. We have a ba and a ya, bay, add a alif hamza at the end, bayda. Same thing. If I had akhdar, what would that become? Khadra. Okay. So colors work a little bit differently. So if you wanted to say, for instance, a black car, car is a feminine word, right? Just write it in black since it's black. So if I have sayyara, I want to say car, black car, the noun goes first. Then we're going to use this form right here. Sayyara, soda. So if you're using colors and you want to make them feminine, this right here is the way to do that. Okay? But any of your other regular adjectives that we have that you want to make feminine, simply add a dot marbuta to the end and it will become feminine. Okay? And remember, noun, adjective phrases, so sayyara, soda, car, black car. Those type of phrases, the noun always has to match the adjective. So if the noun or the adjective always has to match the noun. So if the noun is masculine, so will the adjective. If the noun is feminine, the adjective will be feminine. Okay, so go ahead and do practice for that. And you can do some word recognition practice on page 142. Drill 22 is a good one where you're listening to a word and you're simply circling the word that you hear. So that'll be good practice for you to differentiate between the different letters that we've done.